The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 669. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Well, hello friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have an amazing lady on the show today. She is the host of Asian Madness podcast, and I'm really excited to have her on and share her story with us today on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Jessica Yuan. Jessica, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Hi, Sheena. Thank you for having me. So right now I'm working full-time at an IT company. So I'm working operations and management and living in Taipei, Taiwan. And on my free time, well, not so free, but I put my podcast. Well, it's quite an important part of my life. So usually when I'm not working, I'm working on my podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Jessica, what's your cultural background?
Okay, so my family's originally from China and Taiwan. I was born in South America in Chile, and we moved around quite a lot because of my father's work. So I lived in Central America and in Europe. I went to international school, so that's why I speak English. And yeah, I guess I got to see the world a bit.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what'd be your favorite self-confidence quote?
So this is from a TV show called Suits. And it says, ever loved someone so much you would do anything for them? Well, make that someone yourself and do whatever the hell you want. So that quote, it doesn't sound really self-confidence if you think of it. But for me, it's about putting yourself ahead and listening to what you want instead of what everybody else wants.
Thanks for sharing that great quote. And, I think it's a great quote because love has to start with us, right? Loving ourselves first to know what we want to attract. And I think that's really huge when it comes to confidence, because if you don't love yourself, how do you expect others to love you or, accept you for who you truly are? So I think that's really important. So thanks for sharing that great quote. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
I think people sometimes think of self-confidence as like a big step or like something really, really, really big. But for me, it's just being able to accept your life choices and being okay with who you are. Sometimes it's just like the small things that matter the most.
Thanks for sharing that. And I totally agree. I think sometimes people feel like they have to make big leaps to create that change, but it's really those small daily actionable steps that really yield those big results. So, it's like little by little we get more confident, and it's actually, it helps us in the long run, right? Because sometimes when we do take those big leaps and we don't attain it, we feel like a failure. So I think the little steps are truly important. So thanks for sharing that great definition. And Jessica, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
I was full of self-doubt. I would always question everything I did. I wasn't able to stand up for myself, and I always put everybody else before myself because I feel like I wanted to please everybody, and it didn't really matter what I felt or what I thought about, what I thought about myself. Over time, it just makes you feel really bad about yourself, and you don't think you're worthy of anything, especially when people don't realize what you're doing and they take you for granted and things like that.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's something we all go through, especially, as Asian women. We're so great at trying to please everyone else, but, or trying to make other people happy, and we forget our own happiness and we forget what we want, right? And, we have to realize, like, we have to take care of ourselves first, or, be kinder to ourselves or treat ourselves better. And, what was that point in your life when you realized you were more than enough, especially like to do podcasts, to be who you are today, have that confidence? What's that aha moment?
I think partly it was, it's kind of like a bit of like accumulations of little moments. And one big moment is like also getting rid of toxic people in your life and maybe like mingling with people that are actually supportive of you. I know some people think like you have to find it on your own and things like that, but sometimes I think the help of others, that really, really helps. So for me, it was like other people encouraging me. And then for me, it was like I reached that one moment and I was like, you know what? If I don't do it, then if I can't treat myself better and if I can't stand up for myself, nobody else will.
Thanks for sharing that. And, it's so true, right? I mean, if we want help, we have to start with ourselves. And sometimes we're afraid to ask for help not realizing like it's okay, right? Because sometimes we can't do everything on our own, and that's why it's so important to surround yourself with people who are there for you, who will stand with you side by side. If you need help, they're there for you, and vice versa. And because of those realizations, what's your life been like now?
I am definitely way more outgoing, but I would say I am definitely an introvert, but I am more open to speaking my mind. I'm more willing to mingle, and I'm more willing to, kind of make my own thoughts and ideas be heard. And for example, like creating my own podcast in a world where, let's face it, most podcasts is dominated by the Western world. And here I am, I feel very alone, but it was a big step for me. So that was a push.
Thanks for sharing that. And I totally agree when it comes to podcasting. Like it's huge in the West. And back then when I first started, there was hardly any Asian people podcasting. So now it's starting to get more and more people, more Asian people making their own podcasts, becoming hosts, which is great, right? Because I think it's a great way of, self-expression and just being who you truly are. I think it's a great platform. So, I think it's great that you've been able to create a podcast, especially in Taiwan, right? Like you mentioned, Asian countries aren't really familiar with it yet, but that's the great thing because there's room to grow. So I think that's great. And, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
I would just say go at your own pace because life happens differently for everybody and your moment may not be here yet, but as long as you continue down the path, it will happen. So don't compare yourself to others because that will only make you feel crappier.
Thanks for sharing that. And I know we're all guilty of the comparing game. So yeah, this is a great reminder for everyone, even for me, to realize, we are all on our own journey and we just have to cherish it and be grateful for it. So thanks for sharing that great tip. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do or check out your podcasts, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Yeah, so I'm on most social medias, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, Asian Madness Pod, POD, and you can find me there or you can send me an email at asianmadnesspod@gmail.com.
Thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Jessica, you can also head on over to the taoofselfconfidence.com and search for Jessica's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I really just want to thank Jessica today for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Jessica.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem. It was really great having you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Tao of Self-Confidence. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to get your daily boost of confidence.